interpersonal racism. Interpersonal racism is just the way we treat each other. And if you have malice and hatred in your heart for people just because of the color of their skin, and you act on this hatred towards them, you do mean and unkind and dangerous things to them. That's interpersonal racism. Systematic racism is how systems act to disenfranchise or treat unfairly people because of their skin color. These systems could be the government in general. Specifically, it could be healthcare. It could be education. It could be our interactions with the police, which you guys have a lot of questions about that. But so it's important to understand that, number one, there's a difference. There's a big difference between interpersonal and systemic racism. You can treat people of other races kindly and not be racist to them interpersonally, but if you benefit from systematic racism and if you enact these racist institutions against other people, then that makes you racist also. For example, if you love, enjoy Black people's entertainment or our talent, and you have friends who are Black and you treat them nicely, you are still racist if you don't stand up against the police in the way that they treat us. You're still racist if you don't stand up against the healthcare system, how it disproportionately is killing our Black women. Any of these systems that are racist and you don't stand up against them, that makes you racist too, even if you treat these people kindly. And that's a really important distinction. Our behavior is really, really important, not just in how we treat each other, but also how we interact with these systems. All right. So to jump into your question, the first question I got was, how did slavery start? And the really simple answer is, in the 1600s, European settlers kidnapped African natives and forced them into slavery here in America. And we know that went on for centuries. I'll get into the details of that shortly, because other people's questions are leading to those details. So the next question I had was, how many people were enslaved? There's really no real way to get an accurate figure, but it's been estimated that there were anywhere between 6 and 7 million slaves over the course of 250 years of slavery. And so once again, I'll get into more of the details of how long slavery occurred in the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment, all that. But before I do that, here's the bigger point to focus on about when we talk about slavery. And the bigger point is that the entire purpose of slavery is to profit off of the free work of Black people. So through the forced work of Black people, white people who owned slaves were able to gain a 250-year head start of making money before Black people. So think about that. For 250 years, white people were able to make money in America and Black people didn't. And in addition to that, since Black people started here as slaves, anytime white people start an organization, they are given the space to treat Black people like slaves. So that space is, again, we started here as slaves. Slavery is an institution, one of the first institutions, if not the first institution in this country. That's a really good question. That might be the first institution in our country. So any organizations or institutions that come after that are given the space to treat Black people as slaves. Here's an example of that. Even in abolishing slavery, that means getting rid of slavery, even in abolishing slavery, white people are given the space to continue to treat Black people like slaves. And let me break that down for you guys. So first, the Emancipation Proclamation that was signed in January 1st, 1863, that freed the slaves from the 11 Confederate colonies, the 11 Southern colonies that were fighting on the side of keeping slavery. That made slavery illegal in those 11 colonies. And then The 2 years later, January 31st, the 13th Amendment made slavery illegal in the whole country. But here's the space where black people still get to be treated like slaves, even in the ending of slavery. The 13th Amendment says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime where the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Let's look at these words. Except as punishment for a crime. Those words are really important because what the 13th Amendment is basically saying is that if you are convicted of a crime, you still get to be treated as a slave. If you don't commit a crime, you don't get to be treated as a slave. But if you are committed as a if you do commit a crime, you can be treated like a slave. And we see this in our treatment in the prison system. We see this in brutality. Again, the Constitution says, the 13th Amendment says you can treat people like slaves as punishment for a crime. And then law enforcement decides who they think are the criminals. And a lot of that time, it's black people, because those are the people who cops have been chasing since the beginning. And cops have been chasing black people since the beginning because the very first cops were slave catchers. So even when the 13th Amendment is freeing us from slavery, it's keeping us as slaves simultaneously, because it's saying if you commit a crime, you can be treated as a slave. And the people who enforce those crimes, the police, they started out as slave catchers. So they essentially get to decide who is criminals and who aren't criminals. If they started out as slave catchers, they started out criminalizing black people from our existence. So they get the power to decide that we're all criminals if they really feel like it. And I think that's a very, very, very important thing that we need to keep in mind, is that 13th Amendment, again, leaves the space for the free labor of black people, because when you go to jail, you do a lot of work that you don't get paid for or get criminally underpaid for. And again, that's the free work of black people for profit under the guise of criminality, when in reality, the police get to decide who they say are criminals or not. So the entire thing is unfair and unjust, which leads me to the next question of why are police doing a bad job when it comes to protecting the city? Well, because they protect some people and they don't protect other people. And historically, we see that black and brown and immigrant communities are the communities that are terrorized, while white upper class communities are the ones that are being protected. If you're protecting and serving, you have to protect and not you're protecting and serving. So that's why I think the police are doing a bad job when it comes to protecting the city and other things too. They receive tons and tons and tons of money, and a lot of that money goes towards weaponry and protection against citizens. And we saw that all this summer with police inciting violence at peaceful protests. Next question is, I would like to ask an expert what makes police want to kill black people. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. The first police were slave catchers. So those slave catchers were looking at all black people as potential criminals. And when your institution starts as looking at all black people as potential criminals, that continues throughout history to where now you join the police because you feel that all black people are criminals, or you join the police because it's not that big a deal to you if you work with other people, or if you work in a system that thinks that all black people and treats all black and brown and immigrant people as criminals. How often do black people get killed by police? Well, according to the website mappingviolence.org, Um, it is 251 people have, sorry, 251 black people have been killed by police this year, as of today, as of right now. So I can just talk about for this year, there have been 251 people who have been killed by black people. I mean, sorry, 250 black people have been killed by cops. And you know what? Really quickly, I'm going to Google how many days have there been this year. And there have been, so out of 314 days of 2020, the police have killed 250 people. I'm not sure what that rate comes down to, but 314 days of 2020, 251 black people have been killed by police. Next question. Has anybody ever tried to stop someone from getting killed by police? And that's what all the protesting is about. All of us trying to get someone from getting killed by police. I've seen videos of protesting where police have been starting to approach black men and their black female friends and loved ones put their bodies in between themselves and the police. I've also seen white women put their bodies in between their black friend and black loved one, and that's to try to stop them from the police. So I can tell you parts that I've seen myself, and I can tell you about what the protest is about. But in terms of on a large scale, is there like organizations or big groups of people trying to stop police from killing people? Well, that's what the Black Lives Matter protests are about. But in terms of, and also civil rights movements, I'm not sure how much you know about the civil rights movement, but it was basically a movement to he's not killing people. But yeah, there's a lot of people who try to help black people or anyone getting killed by police. Next question. Has there been one time when the police has gone to jail for killing someone innocent? And yes, there was. If we look not even that long ago, September 6, 2018, a Dallas man, Botham Jean, was sitting in his apartment, reportedly just eating ice cream on his couch. And the Dallas Police Department officer, Amber Geiger, came into his house and shot him. And her excuse was she thought she was in her apartment and she thought that he broke into her apartment. And so in her confusion of not knowing that this wasn't her apartment, and her confusion of not knowing that this man was actually just sitting in his apartment, she shot and killed him. About a year later, October 9th, so she was arrested after, took a few months to get them to arrest her. But, took several days for them to arrest her. But she was eventually charged with manslaughter. And on October 1st, 2019, she was found guilty of murder. And she received a sentence of 10 years in prison, which she is in the process of appealing that sentence. That meaning that she wants to get a chance to say that sentence is wrong, and I want to make my case for why it's wrong and why I shouldn't get such a bad sentence. So think about that. You walk into someone's home and you murder them while they're sitting on their couch. You get sent to jail and convicted, and your response is, well, your punishment for me killing somebody is too harsh. I think my punishment shouldn't be that harsh. And Botham Jean is a black Haitian American, and Amber Geiger is a white woman. Why do police hate black people? How can we stop the police? How can we stop the black people hate? One, I don't think it's on us to stop the black people hate. I think it's up to us to uplift each other and be pillars of strength for each other, and to uphold each other's voices and to lift each other up. I think it's racist white people and racist white institutions' job to stop hating black people. It's not our job to get people to stop hating us because we didn't do anything to them. And it's I don't think all police officers, some do, some definitely do, a lot definitely do in their heart hate black people. And other police officers have decided to work a job that allows you to kill black people. So even if you in your heart don't hate black people, why would you sign up for a job where you know that there are other people there who do hate black people and who will actively terrorize us? You know, like your feelings and your behaviors are two different things. You can love um next question was slavery, slaves, indentured servants, landowners, Civil War, enslaved people really necessary? And that question to that, the answer to that question is obviously no. We did not need to be enslaved in order to start this country. But, when you look at people as less than, you will do whatever you feel to them. And that's a sad truth of it. This one isn't a question, but it was a comment that I say, and it says, I wonder if the police feel bad for what they do. And if by people, I mean, do the police try to be careful to not kill people, to kill black people? Or do people still judge black people? Sorry, I think that's supposed to say hate. Do people still hate black people after what police did to them? And do those people judge police because people think a lot of them are the same? So do police feel bad about killing black people? Are they careful in trying not to kill black people? And do people judge police because they think a lot of them are the same? And like I said before, I don't think all police officers have hate and malice in their heart towards black people. I believe a lot of them do. But the job of the police allows you to kill black people. And we've known that since the beginning. So why would you want a job that would allow you to kill black people? That means there are people around you who are okay with killing black people. And the job of the police, the whole job, your bosses, everybody in charge, will protect you from being punished from killing police. So I think that's up to your own judgment. Do they feel bad about it or not? I don't know. I can't speak for all police officers. I can't speak for some police officers. I can't speak for any police officers because I don't associate with police officers. But that's on them to decide. Do they feel bad about it or not? I don't know. The evidence says no, because they continue to be police officers. And when they do try to speak out against police officers committing police brutality, they get bullied by the other police officers. They get threats by the other police officers. They get fired from their jobs to try to speak up against police brutality. So I don't know if they feel bad or not. I don't. There was a couple questions about interpersonal racism, meaning that how we treat each other, if it's racist or not. And one question is, why are white people racist and rude to black people? And to that, I say entitlement. There's, again, getting back to systematic racism. Every system in this country gives white people the space to treat black people like slaves. And some white people choose to actively take up that space. And in that space is rudeness because they feel entitled, again, because this system says that you can treat black people like slaves. They feel entitled to treating black people like slaves. And part of that is being rude. And that's just entitlement. You could just not, if you hate black people, that like there's another question I saw. I'll skip one of the questions. One question I saw is also, why are people racist? Like, if you don't like us, just move. And I agree with that. You don't like LGBTQ, whoever you don't like, you can just stay away from them and not talk to them. So why do they put so much energy in trying to terrorize us? And it's entitlement. Again, these systems give white people the space to treat us like slaves. And some white people, a lot of white people actively engage that space. So it's entitlement. Whew, that was a mouthful. Should we take a little music break? Yeah, let's take a little music break. Let's get up and move our bodies around. We've been sitting and watching for a little bit. So let's take a little music break. Hey, get out of your seat. Shake your body. Move it all around. Be good for your teachers. Hey, music break. Music break. Hey, shake your body. Come on. Hey. Hey. High five a friend. Hey. High five another friend. Hey. Party time. Okay. Nice movement break, guys. I'm proud of y'all. Break. Love the movement break. All right, down to business. The next set of questions are about Black Lives Matter and protesting. The first question I have is, what is the history of the first Black civilist person? And you would have to go all the way back to the 1830s. The people of the abolitionist movement, and abolitionists are people who believe that slavery should be abolished. Just means slavery should be slavery should be over and gotten rid of forever. Those people are abolitionists, and there's a lot of abolitionists. I just want to throw out a couple of the key names: Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass. Those are some of the key players of the abolitionist movement who believe and fought for slaves to become free. So look at the 1830s, the abolitionist movement is a lot of the first Black civilists there. Let's talk about Black Lives Matter in general. I thought it was important to have a little background on Black Lives Matter movement. And this is taken straight from their website. Hashtag Black Lives Matter was founded in 2013. So that's about 7 years ago, in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer. We don't say his name anymore. But for those who don't know, Trayvon Martin was in Florida. He was minding his business, walking through a shortcut through an alley to get to his home a little quicker. This super racist dude jumped out, tried to fight Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin actually beat him up in self-defense, and this guy pulls out a gun and shoots Trayvon Martin. And so Black Lives Matter was founded in response to that. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation Incorporated is a global organization in the US, the United States, the UK, which is the United Kingdom, and Canada, whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by the state and vigilantes. By combating and countering acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation, and centering Black joy, we are winning immediate improvements in our lives. So Black Lives Matter is basically for the dismantlement of white supremacy and for the uplifting of Black communities and for spreading Black joy was basically what I took away from that. Okay, so the next question I have is, how Black Lives Matter and police views on Blacks or Black people? Let's not. Side note. Let's shy away from. Let's move towards defining people by people terms. So instead of saying the Blacks, say Black people. Instead of saying Hispanic, say Hispanic people. Like it can be a little jarring for people to just be reduced to a part of their existence, where their entire existence is being a person. So let's use people forward terminology going forward. Cool, awesome. So how's slavery affected Black Lives Matter and please view on Black people? I said it earlier before. The first Cops were slave catchers. So in the institution of cops, there is always a criminalizing of Black people. And in that paradigm of oppression, and by paradigm, I mean just the relationship between the oppressors, which would be the police, and the oppressed, which would be Black people. Anytime the oppressed speak out for themselves, the oppressor becomes more enraged and more violent. So I'm sure the Black Lives Matter movement has made police institutional racism become even stronger since they have begun. And okay, that part was kind of just repeating that question. We've answered why they protested. That was one of the questions, why they protesting. We answered that already. Why did other races or skin colors come out to support Black Lives Matter, and why is Black Lives Matter so popular nowadays? I personally think it was because of the George Floyd murder this summer, and we all, if we're not familiar with that, George Floyd was accused of using a counterfeit bill in a bodega. The bodega owner called the cops on them. The cops shoved them down to the ground. Excuse me. One of them put his knee in George Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes, and it was recorded, and the whole world essentially watched him die. So because that, and combined with the fact that we were quarantined, we were stuck at home. This was before sports and entertainment figured out a way to continue because of COVID. And so because the entire world had nothing else to focus on but this, I think it just sparked a consciousness throughout the world. People are mercilessly for essentially just existing. Or back to the point that I was making earlier, the police's approach to us is to assume that we're criminals first. And so since we're assumed that we're criminals first, we don't get a chance to just be human beings. And the whole world saw that all at one time. And I think that because we're in the pandemic, there was nothing else to watch. There was nothing else to do. We were stuck at home. We didn't know what was coming next. And then boom, this bomb just gets dropped on us. I think it just woke up a lot of the consciousness of the world. And not just and it became evident to people who are not Black. To address that question, why other races or skin colors? Well, because other races are treated like this too. Latinx people are treated like this. Immigrants from all countries are treated this way. Basically, if you have any melanin, which is the chemical that makes your skin dark, and the darker you are, the more melanin you have. It seems as though in America, if you have any melanin, you are opened up to getting treated that way. I was asked, what are some famous Black people that support Black Lives Matter? I can't think of any off the top of my head, but a lot of our music, and by our music, I mean hip hop, a lot of our musicians have been not only speaking in line with Black Lives Matter specifically, but even long before Black Lives Matter came to fruition, a lot of our music is about Black liberation. A lot of our music is about Black empowerment. A lot of our music is about stopping police brutality. So you don't have to look any further than any hip hop music to see a lot of people who support Black Lives Matter. It's also important to note that there are people in hip hop who don't support Black Lives Matter. The two that come to mind first are Lil Wayne and Kanye West. So that also highlights a point of not all Black people are for the empowerment of Black people. Some Black people want to be on the side of the oppressor. Some Black people want to be on the side of white supremacy. And we do see that a lot in famous people and entertainers specifically. So keep that in mind. Not all Black people want the empowerment of Black people because they've made enough money and enough power and enough space for themselves that they feel like that's enough. I don't need to share that. why can't more black people accomplish the things that I've accomplished? So why should I bother helping them? And it's important to know that there are people like that who are out there as well. Where do people protest at the most? I was not able to find out where people protest at the most, but I did find a map, and I include that shows all the places and how densely populated the protests were in all these places in America. So I have a map. I'm going to share my notes, and the link to that map is in these notes. Does Black Lives Matter cause a lot of damage also? I mean, not any way that I can think of. There are people who were posing as Black Lives Matter activists who are looting and rioting to try to give the impression that Black Lives Matter, as an institution, as an organization, are the ones out there looting and rioting, and that has shown to just not be true. But I can't think of any damage that Black Lives Matter causes. If anybody else has a different perspective on that, I would love to hear it. But from my perspective, I can't see the damage. I can't see any damage that they're doing. When more black people get killed, does Black Lives Matter stop or go on? It goes on and it goes strong. Black Lives Matter is here forever. The movement, the message isn't going anywhere because Black Lives Matter. Did a lot of people speak up for Black Lives Matter? Yes, a lot of people have. Even in Joe Biden's acceptance speech, he didn't say Black Lives Matter specifically, but he did say specifically to the African American community that we have time and time again had his back and he's going to have ours. So we'll see. But if your newly elected president has that attitude, that should be a reflection that a lot of other people in this country have that attitude too. Why are cops putting protesters in jail? And when they harm someone, why are they not being charged? That is a phenomenal question. That should have been included in the earlier section. But why are cops putting protesters in jail? Because they disagree with the protesters, and they have the power to do it. That's the only reason. There's no fair explanation of it. It's just that they have the power to put protesters in jail, so they do it. I'm sure there are instances when protesters attack police, but I mean, that's generally not the case. The general case is protesters go out peacefully and the police incite violence. And why are they not being charged? Because there's different levels to the legal system. You got the cops, right? And then you got the people so when the cops arrest someone, they go to trial. And so the lawyer who's the lawyer, the defense attorney trying to put him in jail are the prosecutors. So in order for a cop to get charged with killing a black person, the office that the prosecutor works for has to decide, will this go to trial or not? And a lot of time they decide, no, this is not going to go to trial because we say so, or for any number of reasons. So the reason why is that it's not just the cops, it's the prosecution. The prosecution's bosses are the district attorney. The district attorney's bosses are the state attorney general. The state attorney general bosses is the attorney general for the country. And so there's an entire hierarchy, there's entire list, there's entire levels, so many levels to it. And if the higher up levels decide that they're not going to charge these people for killing innocent black people, that's just another reflection of systematic racism. Whew, that was a whole lot. I still got a lot of questions about how I feel about it, but I think I've answered a lot of those questions. What I will say is my my personal perspective has been shown throughout this entire recording. But mostly it is that the police have shown that they protect some communities and they terrorize other communities. And I am from the community that the police terrorize. And so my opinion is that it's just wrong to terrorize your citizens. And if you are a cop who doesn't have hate in your heart for Black people, for Latinx people, for LGBTQ people, if you're one of those people who doesn't have hate in your heart, you are just as guilty as the ones who do have hate in their heart, because you are a part of a system that allows the people who have hate in their heart to take that hate out on whoever they please. So you are what's called complicit. You are not trying to stop them from doing something evil. You are complicit. Once you put on a uniform, the word uniform means same. Uniform means same. So you can't put on a uniform of an institution that has proven for centuries that they allow officers to kill Black people specifically without being punished for it. You can't be a part of that system and claim that you're one of the good ones. If the only good cops are the cops who stop being cops. But as long as you are a part of that system that's helping to kill Black people, I can't say that you're good. I just can't. It's not, there's no evidence. Even again, you may feel like you love people and you may treat individuals nicely, but on the system level, you are helping to kill us by being a cop. And that's basically what I have to say on the matter.